like fighting it or like
We're going live for the record.
pushing back to the extent my internet connection is unstable. Not as unstable as me.
Your internet connection's always unstable.
Is it?
I mean, I'm showing you as good on my side, so.
All right, cool. Cool. I wonder, can I turn your video off so that like I don't see it, but it might make my connection better?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Not how this works, you know.
Is that Canadian or old man? I can't tell.
It was nonsense. I gave my love a cherry that had no stone. I gave my love a chicken that had no bone. I gave my love a story that had no end.
Is that Marty Robbins? What is that?
For me, what that is actually I want to share this damn video and it's not gonna let me.
It sounds like some like Marty Robbins or something or some I don't know.
Okay, so for me it is from Animal House.
Okay.
The character D-Day is singing the song and playing guitar.
It's a fabulous voice you have there, Nicky.
And all of a sudden, John Belushi's character just like walks up as this guy singing a song to a girl, trying to like woo her, grabs the guitar out of his hand and smashes it on like the stairwell. He's like, "Sorry."
I haven't seen it in a while, I suppose. All right.
It's a good moment. It's quite the moment.
Quite a moments in that. A few moments in that movie, but
there's quite a few. I want to try and share this damn thing. Free market's greater this life now. It's picking up. God damn it. All right, so I'm here.
Do you want to if you want to send me a link, I'll try to share it in a couple places off the face kisser.
I'm about to start a watch party on my page.
I'm staying off Facebook to cut my internet. So I have a nice pretty video for all the people out there.
Is that how this works?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's what it was.
I just did something. I don't know what, but I did something.
I don't know what I did other than your mom. All right. You know.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
I'm going to.
I just got a notification
on my watch party.
Peace Freqs discussion board started a watch party.
I turned my volume down.
I just saw myself. I still see myself. Ooh, I don't like that. That's weird. That is weird.
Is it?
No way. It's like because I'm looking the opposite direction that I normally look. You know, because everything's like transposed.
Yeah, I have fun with it.
Anyway, I can't figure out how to copy and paste, so tough.
You're not just gonna share from your phone, bro?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do.
Just hit the share button wherever the hell that is.
There's no share button, man.
I don't know.
I told you, I'm like a boomer here. I don't know my technology. I can do it from my computer, but you asked me to do it on a phone and forget it.
Oh, well, I'm mostly on my phone. So, let's get into it. People will see it. We'll share it around later. Who's up this time of day, anyways? Just you and me. Just the two of us.
Your mother.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us, you and I. building castles in the sun. Bill Withers fucking died. And I know that's not Bill Withers, but that song always kind of puts me in the mind of that, you know?
No, that other guy died. Joe Diffie. Joe Diffie died too.
I know. Brought me up beside the jukebox. Now that's another loss.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Joe Diffie was not 81 years old like Bill Withers, so
No, he was
got that.
not.
All right, you wanna get this thing rolling? Thanks, Moral Bob. All right, so welcome to episode number 41 of Free Market Screen Earth. I'm Nicky P here, as always, with Ben, the Liberty Hippie. How are we doing, Mr. Ben?
I'm doing all right.
Mr.
How you doing,
Uncle
Nicky?
Ben making the rice.
Uncle Ben. I'd make a mean rice. I will tell you that.
Better be an Uncle Ben than an Uncle Tom, is what they say, right?
I suppose.
Or are they the same guy? Was it a branding shift? I don't know.
You know, yeah. Why couldn't it be? I guess.
So today's episode has been 2 weeks in the making, and this is going to be interesting because I watched a documentary. We mentioned it briefly, last week's episode, about this documentary called "The Need to Grow," and I watched it and I was in love. It was amazing. Just like, oh my god, it's everything I want a documentary to be. And I bothered the shit out of Ben until he actually watched the thing. And as
it wasn't
you
that
would
bad. I mean, I intended on watching it. It was just, put a deadline on it, so I did it.
Well, I mean, it still took some forcing to make that happen, I feel like. And as these things would go, Ben was less enthused about the movie than I was, and we're gonna find out why. Because I fucking loved it, and I thought that as far as environmentalism documentaries go, it was probably one of the best I've ever seen. So, Ben, you're in the hot seat. Why did you think it was a piece of shit?
I didn't. Dial it back there. It's not what I said. Not what I said.
He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He just kind of like gave the Ben answer. Like, I mean,
That's how I get through life. I just kind of, don't answer anything and then you can't get in trouble. It just, there were certain parts of it. There was a lot in it to take away, but there are certain parts that just kind of really remind me of that leftist environmentalism, like smash you in the face, make you, feel guilty for reasons that are, not legit. No looking into the future or looking at technology and how that's helped to some degree. Like, I think like it put me in a bad frame of mind, right? Because when you start the movie, the very first thing that pops up is a stat about how soon soil is going to like disappear. How long it's going to take before our soil dies. And I think it was like 60 years or some such like that.
Yeah, it was 60 years. They said it'll all be useless.
Which,
okay, so immediately right off the bat, you're complaining about marketing because that's what you're seeing. From a psychological standpoint, the movie has to force you to be invested. And I will admit, there was a few things that like bothered me, specifically what you're saying, because I also was like, oh my god, it's going for such a lefty kind of position. Now, I do get the impression that what's her name, the voiceover girl from
who was it? I don't remember. It's somebody.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes. Yeah.
I get the impression she probably is a psycho lefty. I don't know.
I think so.
I mean, I hate saying that because like I still think of myself as a lefty, and I'm definitely a psycho. But my point was what I got the impression of is that they know who their audience is going to be. You're making an environmentalism documentary. You and me are not the average environmentalist person, so they have to make a movie that is going to flip the triggers of the people that are actually going to watch it. Now, the thing that I think that it did and why I kind of take it as being the opposite of what you said is because the whole movie focused on two main facts, or focused on two main trajectories. The first being Yeah, government is not going to do anything about this. Government is only making it worse. They point that finger good and hard. The other thing is that the big main story that it follows, aside from the little girl, is specifically about technology. Like whether it's focusing on the guy growing greens and on concrete, or the guy who's growing, the green station out there.
Yep.
It's focusing on the technology. Like when I messaged the director, hopefully I can get on at some point. It was my thing that I loved about it, is that it did that what nobody else does. When normally when you watch these, they're trying to convince you that we have to go back to a pre-industrial age and we're all going to be living in little towns with, subsistence farming, and that's the biggest, as big as our economy can be.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie did not take that approach. Like it definitely said, these are technological advancements that were being made that allow us to perhaps do what we do differently. Basically, its only thing was that the farming practices are poor and we have to change them.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. The little girl that was in there, that just kind of pissed me off. It was like, this is Greta Thunberg, like, 10 years ago. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. Thank you. Don't try to make me feel bad about GMOs by, and like, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing that like irritated me about Greta, is that this little girl is being used as some sort of pawn by, she's 6 years old complaining about GMOs. She knows nothing about GMOs. The only thing she knows is what her parents told her.
Well,
And so all that aside, I understand what you're saying about the technology part. Okay. Like, I get that. At the same time, I don't know that they necessarily, I think they could have pushed that like a little bit harder, maybe, like this idea that
I
these
mean, at least
technologies will help.
a third or a half of the narrative was about the guy. I don't know how much more
It,
the movie could have been about it.
it
Well,
was,
and the other thing
but
about
it
the girl,
wasn't.
that and it's, if you notice, they didn't focus on the foods themselves and GMOs being bad because of foods. What they focused on was the fact that you have Monsanto in government position who's using, and this is a very important thing that I focus on if I'm going to talk GMOs. We don't genetically modify our food to make better food. We genetically modify our food to take more fucking Roundup. That's why we genetically modify food, to deal with the chemicals that we pour on it.
See, I think,
And I feel like they kind of, and maybe this is
they
me
talked
seeing what I
about
want
that
to see in it.
briefly.
Well, they specifically said that that it might as well be a Monsanto office in Washington at the FDA. So,
And I 100% agree, but I think that I would like to see more of that than some little girl standing like at the lobby of the Girl Scouts of America place.
yeah, but that's because
Like,
that's because you're a libertarian. If we want, yes, of course we want them to make logical arguments about shit, but the guy made a movie who's probably going to be watched by a bunch of leftists. See, for me, I guess I see this as being a great potential red pill to get leftists to where we are, to see what you think are the answers aren't the answers, and these are much better ways to handle the issue. That's what I see in it, and it's because I don't look at myself, I guess, as being the target audience. I'm seeing the target audience being people that we are trying to convert, and maybe I'm wrong in that. That's one of the things I would love to ask the director.
I guess to some degree, like, and I can see that with like the Green Dragon thing, with the energy producer, with the guy growing like his plants in someplace in California. Like, I didn't get that vibe. I didn't get that feel that it's like, this is what technology does. It was
Well, I guess to me that was inherent in the fact that the dude's he was growing it not in the ground. His entire project was on concrete. Like, he had an organic farm that wasn't in the ground at all. It was all on just concrete in the middle of a city. To me, like, that's a technological thing. Like, he's found a way to grow in a place that you shouldn't be able to grow shit.
It is, but I mean, I don't know, there was something missing. It wasn't like, there was no like, okay, this is how, we can replicate this. This is how we can like scale these sort of things up. This is how we can do this. It was more like, hey, this guy's growing lots of vegetables and they can get to your door in half an hour, and we're not a food desert anymore. Like, yeah, great. I don't know.
Well, but seeing that, what did he move to doing? When he lost that property because he was getting it cheap from the city, what did he do? He opened up
I don't remember him.
he opened up an education center at the end of it, teaching people how to utilize that, how to do what I've done. Which, in theory, it could make a lot of rooftop gardens in the middle of the inner city.
And maybe it could. And I would like to see.
Which is also
I'd like
what
to
I
see
love.
more on that.
Which is like the little girl story. What does she end up doing? She ends up teaching kids how to grow at school. Like, I wish they weren't at school at all, but I'd love to see more of them growing at school if they're going to be there.
They're not. It's like you go once a week. You go to the courtyard and you put a sunflower seed in the ground. That's rubbish, polished baloney, and nothing there to that. But I don't know. I mean, I get parts of it, and I think you can to some degree. I would like to. I think for me, I would like to see more of.
Real quick, since I have a question here, actually, the point of GMOs is to allow them to better deal with the fact that they dump Roundup in increasing amounts on farms, and the reason they do Roundup is because it's owned by a company that has people within the FDA or within the Agricultural Administration telling them they're allowed to do it. Most of they actually mentioned in the documentary that most of the chemicals used in farming, our fertilizers and our pesticides, are both byproducts of war and chemicals that they used to use in the 70s to make bombs. So, just a point of note.
And there's, I mean, you think about it, like you look when you get into fertilizers and all of that stuff, it's an NPK ratio, nitrogen, potassium, and Christmas. What's the other one? I don't know. But a lot of the stuff it's too heavy for your plants. Like your plants like won't absorb it all, and it really sometimes you put it on too heavy, it ends up burning stuff, and a lot of it just washes off and runs away anyway. And they hit on that a little bit, but I think I would have liked to have seen the connection to the government a little stronger, just in that sense of like, okay, this is how Monsanto is actually connected, not just some crazy leftist yelling like, Monsanto, they're the government. Like, cool, dude, I get that, but let's spell it out for like everybody to see. This is how it rolls.
You see, and I think like you're too deep down the rabbit hole for this, because to me, I see this as a great introduction for people that would never think about this stuff.
And it probably is.
So
I don't know.
Like, I mean, I don't think they could have made any bigger point at the the government other than to like suggest that they possibly burned the place down, but whatever.
Yeah, that was
the dude laid out a pretty like, I'm just saying the feds were involved.
Yeah, I love that. That was like, and it was totally like it was only the guys they were interviewing, and nobody that was like actually like running the documentary said anything about it. It was just like, okay,
well, and I think that's probably for the
and
best that they are allowed to make and release the documentary. If they had, I think if they'd taken a stronger stance, it would have been harder to get out. Honestly. What was I gonna say? So, that's one of the things that I saw is like that it gave a very good like starting point for a lot of little things that you could fall on. It could have spent a lot more time on that particular part of things, but it also got into like some of the more interesting things. Dude, that like the mycelium like little bit talking about the soil was awesome. Like that's the thing that piqued Irma's interest, and is they've got that in good animation. It's a cool topic, and it immediately gets you like invested in kind of the actual soil. The thing like focus on what's good that's been taken out, as opposed to going down the rabbit hole too much, because there's plenty of books in the rabbit hole. You've got to get people enticed and interested enough to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most people that are involved in this sort of stuff, the people that would watch that sort of documentary already are invested to a degree. Like, if you're going to watch a movie on how our current industrial situation is, not a good one, is detrimental to the environment, you probably already have some of those ideals like etched on your heart, right? Like, you already know Monsanto is a nasty corporation. So I don't know.
Not to get sidetracked. This is interesting. I actually have people talking to us in the chat for a change.
Hey.
So, Chris, I realize that there are other things that GMOs do. That's why I wasn't focusing on GMOs in general. I was specifically talking about those that relate to the fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers that we use. I realize that they've been working on golden rice for years, and there's a whole bunch of other things that they've been doing. And I support all that. I have no issue with GMOs on their face. My issue is when they're trying to cover up for an issue that's been created by doing things perhaps a poor way. Like altering your food to deal with the chemicals you dump on it is ultimately what I have an issue with. More importantly, because those chemicals end up in the ocean and killing fish and causing all kinds of crazy shit to happen, in places like the Gulf of Mexico. And, while they'll try and blame the pH of the oceans changing on global warming, I guarantee that it has a hell of a lot more to do with the fact that all of our farming chemicals dump into the Mississippi and end up in the ocean. And not just us. Every nation across the world does the same thing. Those chemicals just sit on the top of the soil, they run off into our streams, and then eventually end up in the ocean. As opposed to like utilizing an actual appropriate fertilizer method that actually builds the soil, which will last for generations. It actually stays in the soil. We kind of pull out and never put anything back in. And it's been proven, like the documentary shows, that we're more than capable of doing that. We just don't. Like we can actually go and buy. Like Liz was looking and actually like went to that website for what the hell's it, the Green Powerhouse, and you can actually buy the what do you call it? I think it's the liquid carbon stuff.
The algae.
No, the other stuff.
The
biochar.
Biochar.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's out there now.
I think she said you can't buy a lot of a bunch of the other stuff is sold out, but you could get the biochar.
Okay. The thing with GMOs and stuff is like once you start bringing property rights into some of this stuff, it totally mixes things. You think about, like your salmon, your GMO salmon, your all this stuff that's been modified. When it gets out into the wild, our property rights aren't set up to deal with that. Like our system can't handle that, and most of that's because there's been rules passed as such. Like when Monsanto finds my their soybean growing on my property, and it's a GMO soybean that came from their patent. That's problematic. And
fuck IP.
There you go. You answered it, but that's not where we are. And
I know.
GMO is just like when you start dumping, and I can't find the comments. There's no comments on this. Okay, I'm looking at my phone. No comments.
Oh no, I have a watch. If you go to my page, like Nick Bacone,
anyway,
I actually have a watch party going on there that people are talking to.
So it like
my little brother and Moral Bob, by the way.
Oh. Hey fellas. So it's I don't know. It's his rat race, right? Like, yes, you can use GMOs. You can, go for it. Keep dumping fertilizer, keep dumping all that stuff, and they'll keep making seeds that work and seeds that don't work. And the thing of it is, like, you start losing biodiversity on all fronts when you start doing that, whether it's different seed cultivars or it's stuff in the ground, like, microorganisms in the ground. And when we get to a place where I, as the farmer next to you, can, sue you because you've destroyed my soil from your runoff, then cool, go for it. But we're not there yet. So it's one of those things I'm just so hesitant to, like, totally get on board with, and just, it's one of those things I really, they rub me the wrong way. Something about I don't
know. No, I definitely see that position. I mean, to me, it opens up, things that you and me talk about every episode on here, which is private property rights are the only solution to deal with like these huge problems. And I think that at a certain point, if we don't all die off immediately, which I don't think we will, eventually all that soil they fucked up is going to be worthless. And the thing is what that ultimately is going to mean is that someone else is going to buy it, and probably someone that sees value in it that they don't. Meaning someone who can actually probably resuscitate said property.
Yeah.
Like, I think ultimately they put themselves out of business. Yeah, if they only have 60 years left, well, eventually at 60 years, like, they're going to either get with the program and find a way to grow like reasonably, or the global food supply is going to end. I don't think they're going to let the global food supply end. So, hopefully.
But, and I think that was kind of what like, just in the beginning when I saw that stat, like, I was like, man, and I don't agree with that. I don't want a food supply like that that's built on chemicals, and we're growing food out of dead soil because of we just keep dumping chemicals on it, and
Liz is
great, we can do that, but
growing worms in our kitchen right now. And all of our excess food, food and
yeah,
what do you call it? Plant waste goes in there. All of the soil that we're using this
vermiculture.
year, it used to be our mulch or whatever from last year. So she's doing, I guess, what's called lasagna
Vermiculture.
planting. Lasagna planting.
Okay. Yeah, with the cardboard
Specifically.
and
Yep. Our entire I was so pissed. I came home one day and our entire backyard is full of cardboard, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? you just put all of our cardboard in the lawn. And she's like, bear with us.
we tried it in our yard, like in the garden area. We tried it, and there's just so much wind, it like ripped the cardboard off, man. It just, like, you got to be careful to keep that down.
Our yard is entirely fenced in. Like, we have fencing on every side of it. Our house, like, is like our yard is only as big as or wide as our house. So the house blocks it on one end, the garage on the other, the guys next door us house. Like, so, I mean, we luckily don't have a whole lot of wind back there. The other thing, like, the reason she did it is because we have nothing but clay back there.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we got, man. It's bad clay, but and that's because they grew soy and cotton on it for years, and tobacco, and who knows,
So
what
you're exactly what we were just talking about. You're the one who got the land cheap because someone else didn't know what the fuck to do with it. They depleted it.
It wasn't cheap.
He's like, it wasn't as cheap as I wanted it to be.
it was pretty. We did, okay. It was market price. It wasn't too, below value, but it is what it is, and we're working on things, and we're trying to restore it, and the ways that we're doing that, I don't think you could necessarily do on a large scale. I think you'll see more, especially with this whole coop thing, like the number of people that are putting gardens in now, that are trying to grow stuff in containers on their patio. It's all over the place, and I really hope this kind of sticks with people, and it's not just this seasonal thing where, okay, I got some zucchinis and I hate them and I'm never doing this again. It's something that sticks with them for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I get a lot of people who say, oh, everyone's moving out of the cities now and gonna be moving out.
I hope not. I hope to stay there.
Well, the thing that I see is that you have people. I hope that's what happens personally. I hope that people have learned some lessons culturally from this. And I think that maybe there were some that did. I know definitely with me and Liz, we've kind of readjusted some of our priorities and timescales a little bit. So I'm excited to, kind of start moving things in that direction for us. Liz wants to be out of the city as soon as possible, honestly.
I don't blame you. I mean,
hopefully
it's
in the next year,
things.
year, I can get an internet business started up and leave, I guess.
Nice. Yeah. What do you think about it? Like, our Georgia is on, I think we're on lockdown or stay at home or whatever the heck they call it. And it's honestly, it's not that much different for us. Like, we don't go out that much, and my kids are fine. They're going outside, playing and I was thinking the other day, like, when we lived in Brooklyn, like, if I had to deal with this now in like an 800 square foot apartment, with no, I get a fire escape. That's like all I have. It's insane. It's insane.
Are
Ever,
are you
ever,
sheltering in
ever.
place down there, Shane?
Shelter in place. Yeah,
He's in Georgia
it
with you,
is.
man. You guys know I don't.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what it is. It's shelter in place, I guess.
We did. I
It's
think I don't know if we were the first to do shelter in place with people. We were definitely the first to like go to lock everything down up in Ohio. Our
you guys have
governor's
been
like,
doing all right for a little while. You were like Ohio had been on the up, and then you started doing some crazy, stupid nonsense,
oh, dude,
locking
no, no,
everybody
no,
up.
no. We weren't on the up and up. We were the first. We were the first. California and New York came after us with like the bans on establishments. We haven't been able to go to restaurants in over a month now. Like that shit's been hasn't been 2
It's
weeks here.
ridiculous,
Let's put
man.
it that way. Like that's been a long ass time. Like I think I played a gig the day before I found out there were going to be no more gigs ever again. Basically,
It's
which
like
sucks. I didn't
I
get
don't
to
know,
do
man.
gigs last
I
week.
don't
Like
know.
normally
Like,
last week would have been my gig week, and I didn't do any.
uh, I don't know, man.
Lost a bunch of
But like
money.
and that's what's gonna end up biting people, man. And then they got to realize it. But will it affect farmers? We're already seeing that, right? Like,
Oh, dude, you
this is
saw
totally
the
off topic now, but
milk?
we talked about milk, right? We were talking about milk not the other day. Like,
Milk
like I posted a
subsidization.
picture in Kroger. In Kroger's, I could only get 2 gallons of milk, right? They have a cap on milk. You can only get 2 gallons. So we had just like we were in the process of weaning our bottle babies, bottle baby goats. So we were going through like a gallon and a half of milk a day. And so like now, not only do I have to like go to the store like every day instead of buying 6 gallons at once, now I'm exposing myself and everybody else to this coup for, what, and I can only buy 2 gallons. Like, and now they're dumping out milk because what the hell is going on? Like, are
Oh,
you
dude, it was,
morons? And
dude, you should have seen my explanation to Irma about milk subsidies and farm subsidies in general, but specifically I laid out what milk subsidies are, and I'm like, does this make any sense to you? Irma's just like, no, that sounds stupid. And I'm like, it is stupid.
we're paying them to dump their milk out, I guess, right? Because
Yes. Well, I mean, it's like,
Africa's market for dehydrated milk is saturated, and nothing
well,
left to do
and
with it.
that's exactly it. Like that, like the reason we have a lot of the government programs that we have, like it used to be the powdered milk and the government cheese, is because they were subsidizing farmers that had nobody to sell it to. It's like, oh well,
Yeah,
we got all
well,
this
that's what they
excess
do with
milk.
it.
Yeah, it
That's,
would just seems like it would
but
be make for a more sensible business model to cut all the waste out. But what do I know?
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, well, that's not how it works, but
we've meandered a little bit on this.
a little bit,
Like I said, dude. So for me, I mean, I get what you're saying, and don't get me wrong. Like when I first watched it, like there was those bits, and I was like, I mean, God, that was so almost so perfect, and then it's got these moments that it pissed me off. Like it's like why is it's focusing on the wrong elements, and that's when I'm like, I sat down and I thought to myself, but who is this made for? Like they're not making like no hardcore right winger is going to pick up an environmentalism documentary for the most part. They're not making it for them. They're going to look at it and say, "Oh, great, a bunch of fucking propaganda." I can already hear all of our Republican friends. That's exactly where that goes. But there's a lot of information in there that I think that the people on the other side don't get to hear a lot of. That's why I like doing this, and we get to talk about things that we care about, that I think they care about, but present solutions that I know that they're not ever going to see.
Yes, to some degree. The thing is, like, I think
I'm going to get the director on now just so you guys can fight.
I think the people that are going to be picking this up are like your Bernie bros that like already have this idea that government is bad, right? They already know I already know government is bad, but this is how we fix it. We need more government, right? That's who I think this is, like the people that you're talking to. Well, Monsanto is bad, but it's not bad because they're in bed with the government. Like they're bad on their own. So we need to break up this monopoly by introducing more government. Like that's where I see this going. That's why I'm like, nah, that's my hesitancy.
And maybe you're right. I guess for me, I appreciate it because I've never seen anything take that what I saw this tack as being. Like it talked about shit. I've never
That's fair.
seen one of these documentaries go at it. Like usually it's like we've
Yeah.
all gotta move out into the forests and we gotta get rid of all of our worldly possessions and we're gonna get rid of all technology and we're just gonna live on the land like the settlers do. And if that's what your selling point is, yeah, count me out, brah. I like the internet a lot. I like being able to hang out with my buddies in fucking Georgia and California and shit. Like
Oh,
I'm not
that
giving up
5G going,
technology.
you still could. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the point that
Yeah.
those
I
people
hear
want
you.
to get rid of 5G. They want to get rid of everything. You know, I think the jury's out on 5G. I think that there's some things that may come along with
We
it.
got to do an episode.
Are we?
We got to do 5G. We have to. We have to. I don't know anything about it other than people hate it and they burn the towers down and supposedly it's gonna like microwave my brain, but yeah, we got to do it.
I don't
Oh man,
know, but
I am glad that the movie didn't necessarily put a spin on it, like we all have to like back to nature. Like it wasn't totally primitivism. Like it was like okay,
well, dude, the
we can
main
make this
character in the
work.
movie was a dude who like developed AI for video games. Like you don't get more. And he's like, you know what? They asked me to come work for Lucasfilms, and I was like, nah, bro, I want to stay out here in Montana. And so I had to think of something to do. So I was like, let's just put some AI into making dirt better.
I had a very deep fondness for all the hippies involved, all the like, just old dudes on their rocker, just like talking
Did you
nonsense that
did you have a
totally works. It's like,
did
hey, how about that?
did you have a favorite part in the movie?
I don't know.
My
I enjoyed like a lot of Paul Stamets talk. The seed guy that came out of LA.
yeah,
He was a character.
he was
But
wild.
like honestly, like watching, I don't know the dude's name, the guy that built the Green Dragon. Like either he's a really good actor or like his emotion came through. Like he was genuinely like in love with this thing. Like it is the coolest thing ever. Like what he has created was like just
Dude,
amazing. It was mind blowing, and he like he knows it, and it still blows his mind that
dude,
like it's does what it does. Like
dude, everything in that movie boils down to me that scene, and I'm pretty sure it was staged, where he picks up that piece of metal
oh,
and
I'm sure.
and he's just like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, this was designed to withstand the temperatures of a combustion engine. Look at that, melted entirely. And you're
Yeah,
like, it was in a
yeah,
fucking big
I
room
know.
full of water. How did like the thing that actually burns in that place is completely untouched? Meanwhile, the building full of water went up.
Well, that's what's so weird because like I mean, like the temperatures that they were cooking stuff at were hot. I mean, and I can see where it might cause a problem, but the way that like they describe the fire, I mean, this is like, a jet fuel fire type situation, with buildings falling down all around it. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those like, wait a minute,
I mean, like
let me think a second before
to me it
I go
reads
ahead and say, okay.
to me it reads like there was an employee like that guy who called him burned the place down and then just called him when the job was done. That's what it felt like to
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Yes. The guy sitting up in
The guy who
his
quit a
like
month
bulldozer.
later.
Hey,
Did you feel like
so
him? Did you
I
feel
tell
like
you this thing.
him and the algae lady? Was it their fault? I don't know.
I don't know. Would you think the algae lady was in on it? I mean, I don't
I don't know.
know.
They both quit exactly a month
I,
afterwards. You don't know. I don't know.
you got to check their bank accounts now. See where they're at.
It's a good point. No, you got to check the
It,
husbands and the
it
wives'
is.
bank accounts. They never go directly to the person. Remember that? It's
Yeah, yeah.
Congress rules. It's always the significant other that has the money.
Oh God. I don't know, man. It's like I part of me really appreciated the movie and appreciated like putting those things out there. I would have liked to seen more on like there wasn't enough. Like I said, it was not enough distinguishing between like government and business together create this, and you can't stop that. Like
Mm-hmm.
and because I feel like this is. I see what you're saying. Like I understand. I
Yeah, I
understand,
just
but I
think it
feel like it
planted seeds,
fuels
and
the
you wanted it
fire.
to be more direct.
No, but see, that's I don't know that it plants seeds. I think it fuels fires. I think it does more to, because the connections between government and crappy Monsanto wasn't direct. It wasn't spelled out. It was very like passive. And I think if you're already in that mindset, you're going to be taking it to mean that it's the government that did wrong. And if we fix this government, we can fix it. And by fixing government, we just need different people to work together. We need a law that says, if you're a CEO of a company, you can't be a politician or whatever it is, right? There was no mention, no direction, no specification that this is how it works. This is how things work. When you have, government making laws, they make these things to favor companies, right? Like there's no law that's going to stop any of this from happening. There was none of that. It was very, even passive. It wasn't there. And I think that's what kind of turned me off from it a little bit, but I could be
I
wrong. We
mean,
have to get the director on here to
I guess for me, the other thing that really kind of sold it to me was like, even with what's them called, the Girl Scouts of America. Like, I thought it painted them as a bunch of corporate pieces of shit too.
It did, and good for them. I mean, great, whatever. I don't have a problem with being people painting corporate entities as problematic. I have no problem with that. And call them out on their crap, But when you don't and I think that was another thing. So it was like the Girl Scouts were there, they were part of it, but they were making that choice to not have to allow GMOs in their food, right? They were making that choice. Now, if you want to call them out on that, that's fine. But there was no, I don't know, it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't necessarily fit. There was no, you're just calling out a corporation for calling out a corporation, which is fine. Do that, great. But it didn't, I feel like it didn't fit with the other things, right? Like it didn't, it wasn't connected. The other two were at least remotely connected. This whole GMO thing is like, why? Because you got a bone to pick with GMOs? Like, because you got a bone to pick with the Girl Scouts? Like, what's your deal?
I mean, I have bones to pick with the Girl Scouts, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I'm not going to talk about your bone to pick with the Girl Scouts, but I don't know. Any Girl Scout, Boy Scout thing, I just kind of.
If you wanna go send your kids off to rah 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 love the government camp, then I guess that's for you. But
well, but yeah.
So
I went to Boy Scouts once as a kid, and I think my other issue with Boy Scouts that I'll put on the table now for any Boy Scouts out there is that anything the Boy Scouts teach you, you can learn on your own, and you can learn much better, because let me tell you, the people in Boy Scouts know jack all about what they're telling you. And just because you're an Eagle Scout doesn't mean a darn thing.
I do know a couple like Boy Scouts that
some,
yeah.
But this whole idea, this whole thing, like Eagle Scout crap, how about you do a community project for the good of a community project? How about, you actually learn things because they're like life skills, not because you got to get a badge, man. I need a badge. Collect them all.
Dude, it's gamification. It gets people doing shit they would normally wouldn't. It's like, I think that you're right
for that.
Yeah. Well, we also grew up in a place where we just had fucking woods, and we just run out in the woods when we wanted to. Like we go camping by running into the field across from our house and just staying over there. Like I've slept over Lake Erie or whatever it is. No, I think I slept, was it Lake Ontario? I don't know. I've slept over one of the lakes, like on a branch in a tree, just laying over the fucking rocks and shit, listening to the waves crash below me because I could, because it was right there. Not everyone else has that ability to do that kind of stuff. Sadly,
I know.
We're spoiled.
I know.
So
I wouldn't give you a nickel to be back there, though.
I'd love to be back there without all the other bullshit and the people.
Well,
telling people how to live their lives. So, what do you want to talk about next week? Let's kind of force ourselves to maybe.
Some don't do that. Don't do that.
Specifically, why I do that, so that we kind of have to do stuff.
I don't know.
I'm looking at our list.
I don't know.
I wish the episode would have turned out better as a podcast, but I did love our our Blue New Deal episode. That was so awful. God,
You know, it's just
Elizabeth Warren is so terrible.
something. I
Just so awful. We've got rewilding on the list. I got a bunch of people I want to talk to.
Yeah, guests, always guests. Got to get a guest. Somebody out there. I don't know. I mean, I think we talked about it already. This coup in the environment, but I think there's a. I don't know. There might be something there talking about like I don't know. Tigers getting the coup over in Brooklyn. Stuck my teeth at that. There's nothing else to do.
So I don't know. I find it mostly so boring at this point. It's like, oh wait, everything I said from day one was going to happen is right so far. So
yeah,
when do I get my vindication card in the mail?
You don't, because this happened because the government stepped in and made us all safer.
Oh, okay.
If the government hadn't stepped in, you'd be dying on the street right now, Nicky.
I mean, that still may happen. If it does happen, it's most likely going to be economy related for me, but
because you're gonna get like looted. Somebody's gonna steal your,
be robbed doing my job or something. But
yeah, what can we talk about? Yeah, I'm
we'll come
open
up with something
to
fun.
any of those topics. If you know a guest, if you have somebody that talks about these things, you want to hear. Let's talk more.
Let's have a fun one. Let's get Ted Kaczynski's manifesto and read it, and take that apart bit by bit.
That's a lot, man. I don't know if I have time to read all that. Good gracious. Yeah, you know there's like hundreds of people out there like writing manifestos right now. Getting ready.
Was it you who posted the one where like, if you don't accomplish anything, just remember Theodore Kaczynski did all this shit.
He completed like 14 projects when Ted Kaczynski was in isolation. He completed like 14 projects and wrote a 35,000 word essay that the New York Times published. Like,
And I'm assuming 35,000 words is his manifesto, and the projects for each of the bombs that he mailed out. I'm assuming.
I assume so, and got that thing published.
Hey, folks, don't go out and do anything dumb.
Don't do that.
Don't be the fucking Unabomber.
Don't do that, guy.
Like, use your brain power for use your brain power for something productive. Because look, no one's following the Unabomber right now, and his what may have been good ideas are now buried under a pile of shitty ones.
Yeah, that's always how it seems to go. People, good ideas get frustrated and end up lashing out, and they get buried. But,
like, I'll be goddamned if I'm giving up smartphones. That's all I'm saying. Not happening.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that sometimes, like with this whole thing and shutting things down and what's going to happen, and I don't know, man. It's just weird. Like, I tried to stream some shows on Amazon last night, and they were slow. They were really slow. A couple of them didn't load right away. It was weird. It was weird to think about what would happen if that stuff wasn't there.
Nothing fun.
Like, what happens if my phone disappears? I mean, I'd be okay.
What happens if I have to go back to like getting porn on paper? Are they just gonna start selling flip books and shit?
You have to get a whole bunch of wipes, clean that off. You got to preserve those pages, I guess.
Go authentic style. All right, folks. Well, thank you for hanging out with us again here at Free Market Screen Earth. You know where to go, freemarketscreenearth.com. Look us up on Facebook or the Twitter or the Instagram. We're on places. And
no koala bears yet. No koala bears.
We're not trying to save koala bears. No one wants to see my titties. Maybe I'll post a titty shot this weekend. We'll see how it all goes. But yeah, we're here typically on Monday nights doing these live streams. So if this is a normal time you're awake, then enjoy. Otherwise, it goes out on the podcast and feed typically when I manage to get it out, which is supposed to be Thursdays and sometimes is Thursdays. Like for all the time I've
Um,
had over this like break, I've been definitely terrible about getting episodes out on time.
it's funny. Like, there's so much time, but at the same time, like I'm finding a million things to fill it up with, and
Yeah,
not like insignificant things. All things that are tangential to my life, like, and my well being. All things that needed to get done.
drinking
It's
more
it's
beers,
yeah, that
or are
is
you drink
also
or are you
also.
drinking seltzers? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a cross, I guess. I don't know. Um, yeah, it's it is though. It's wild the amount of time that I think people have, the amount of things that people are getting done. It's I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how things go back together. It's all
It is, and it's not going to
who
be the same
knows.
as it used to be for sure. But I don't know
Yeah,
exactly how it'll be different.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So, all right. Well, you have yourself a good one, everybody.
Later.